Hello. I call myself, because I'm French apparently, Frater Ophidrion. Ophidrion, I don't know if that was loud enough. I am going to begin reading from what is, I guess, my favorite book now. It is quite worth the read if you give any sort of craps or shits or what have yous about the tarot. It is by Paul Foster Case, which is famed for his modification on the Rider-Waite deck, basically. It goes into detail about this guy, but highly recommend looking this up. In this glorious shape, many things are explained. This is where a number system comes from, evidently. The Tarot, a key to the wisdom of the ages. The classic guide by Paul Foster Case. Published by the Penguin Group, USA. Preface to the first revised edition. This is the first revised edition of Paul Foster Case's classic The Tarot, A Key to the Wisdom of the Ages. Since its initial publication in 1947 by McCoy Publishing Company, over the years, this book has come to be regarded as the seminal work on the tarot and on the tarot's intimate connections with the Kabbalah, astrology, alchemy, and the other Hermetic sciences. The only revisions that have been made to the original work are the correction of misspelled words and obvious errors. Case first began the study of the tarot in 1900 at the age of 16. In 1907, he published the attributions of the tarot keys to the letters of the Hebrew alphabet set forth in this book, which attributions he had arrived at as a result of his personal studies. Throughout the early part of this century, Case lectured and published works on the tarot, Kabbalah, astrology, alchemy, masonry, Rosicrucianism, and the effect these sciences had on the founding of the United States of America. His work brought him into contact with persons such as Alice Bailey, Michael Woody, Claude Bragdon, Judge Troward, and other leading occultists of that era. In 1920, Case published an introduction to the study of the tarot, now out of print, which was the precursor to this book. In 1922, he published the Book of Tokens, a series of 22 inspirationally received meditations on the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. I gotta give me a copy of that, I'll tell you what. In 1929, he published the first edition of the True and Invisible Rosicrucian Order, which demonstrated that the original Rosicrucian documents could not be accurately interpreted without a thorough understanding of Kabbalah and Tarot, and that true Rosicrucianism was simply the expression of the tenderness of true Christianity. Passio talks about things that are hidden within the exoteric religions. I always saw Christianity as that which held the little nugget of truth, which is Christ consciousness. Those Rosicrucians are onto something about that, I'll tell you what. Throughout this period of time and up until his death, Case was busy preparing detailed lesson material on each aspect of the Western mystery training system, which, in his published works, he was only able to briefly touch upon. In 1939, Case organized the Builders of the Adytum as an order dedicated to the perpetuation of the Western mysteries throughout the dispensation of these lesson materials, in a series of correspondence courses beginning with simple metaphysics and working up through an in-depth study of the tarot, the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, gematria, sound and color, alchemy, and astrology. Finally, in 1947, Case was able to publish the present work, which constituted the summation of over 45 years of study and effect, and which represented his magnum opus with respect to the tarot. Under Case's instruction, artist Jesse Burns Park, 1889 through 1964, drew the images of the keys. I Don't you love that ringtone? It is with gratification and great pleasure that the stewards of the order that Case founded announced the publication of this revised edition of his most influential public work. It is our earnest desire that the availability of this book in its present form will inspire its readers to embark upon the journey that leads to the true self residing in the heart of each of us. Readers interested in pursuing further the works of Case and his spiritual successor, Ann Davies, as embodied in the curriculum of the Builders of the Adytum, or in obtaining black and white Builders of the Adytum tarot keys for coloring, may write to Builders of the Adytum 5101-05 North, I can't pronounce that properly, Figueroa, Figueroa. I'm not that good with the words I don't know. And that's a street. That's in Los Angeles, California, 90042. Or go to BOTA.org. Under the shadow of his wing, whose name is Peace, Builders of the Adytum. Cool. Alright, and then they have a note to the reader right after that. Members of Builders of the Adytum, BOTA, believe it is very important that each individual interested in personal unfoldment through the use of the tarot take the time and make the effort to color his or own tarot keys. In the words of Paul Foster Case, when you color your own cards, they take on the character of your personality. They are inseparably linked with you. The attention you must give impresses their patterns upon the cells of your brain, builds the details of the designs into your consciousness, and making the tarot keys a part of yourself is one of the most practical secrets of all occultism. It is the necessary foundation for all advanced tarot practice. Sets of uncolored tarot keys and coloring instructions are available from www.boda.org, Builders of the Adytum. When I bought mine, I legit thought I was getting like the full deck the first time, but I bought these big fuckers. I tell you what, I'm real happy I got them though. It's fucking dope because I had a great idea. I wanted to use them to perform like a ritual of some sort. How do I use these magic cards for magic? Woo! And I was watching one of E.A. Coetting's videos. He actually mentioned something very helpful to me, in as much as you must think of them as sigils of sorts. Now, what on earth does that mean? Requires pre-existent knowledge of stuff about tarot. Now, I am not an expert by any means. However, I do think that having the odd mix of foundational materials that I have has given me an interesting perspective, such that when it goes into in chapter 4, he talks about the cube of space and the relations that the cards have there. So if they are sigils of some sort, then these modes of consciousness, which is what they are, would correspond to a kind of direction that the individual chooses. We know that it's important to face a direction when trying to call another spirit of some kind. Perhaps it is also important for you to know which direction you should face to be the spirits that you wish to be. So, I guess I'll wrap this video up with the introduction. The Tarot, a Key to the Wisdom of the Ages. Introduction. The Tarot is a pictorial textbook of ageless wisdom. From its pages has been drawn inspiration from some of the most important works on occult science published during the last 75 years. Its influence on the minds of a few enlightened thinkers may be traced throughout the history of the modern revival of interest in esoteric science and philosophy. This revival began in 1854 with the publication of Elvis Levi's Dogma and Ritual of Transcendental Magic, first of a series of occult writings in which he names the tarot as his most important source of information. Elvis Levi's teaching influenced the work of H.P. Blavatsky and Dr. Anna Kingsford. Do people with that name prefer Ford or Ferd? Anna Kingsford. It has been developed and extended in the circles of French occultism in which Papist Dr. Gerald N. Caussy, I should have stayed an accent for that one, was for long a leading spirit. For English readers, it is interpreted in the books of S. L. McGregor Mathers, Dr. W. Wynne Westcott, Dr. Arthur Edward Waite, and others. The works of New Thought writers, especially the essays of Judge Thomas Schroeder, echoed again and again, and through Levi himself was a nominal Roman Catholic. Though Levi, himself was a nominal Roman Catholic, his doctrine is utilized by Scottish Rite Masonry in the United States, inasmuch as General Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma of the Scottish Rite repeats verbatim, page after page, from the French occultist Dogma and Ritual. Look up Albert Pike. If y'all don't know about Albert Pike, go on over to Schism 206. That occult science series is on point. Levi's opinion of the tarot was very high. He said, as an erudite Kabbalist book, all combinations of which reveal the harmonies pre-existing between signs, letters, and numbers. The practical value of the tarot is truly and above all marvelous. A prisoner devoid of books, had he only the tarot of which he knew how to make use, could in a few years acquire a universal science and converse with an unequaled doctrine and inexhaustible eloquence. Converse with an unequaled doctrine. Okay. He'd talk your ass off, is what he's saying. The tarot teaches you how to talk your ass off and sound cool. Because, we're all up to something. The aim of this analysis is to show you how to use the tarot. A full treatment would require many volumes, but I hope to realize the promise of my title by giving a concise explanation of the general plan of the tarot and a brief outline of its meaning. It should be understood, however, that the student must fill in this outline with the results of his own observation and meditation. Before entering upon a description of the construction and symbolism of this book of occult science, it may be well to say a word as to its history. In the main, I am in agreement with author Edward Waite, who discusses the various theories as to its origin in his Key to the Tarot, published by in London by W. M. Ryder and Sons. Dr. Waite concludes that the tarot has no exoteric history before the 14th century. The oldest examples of tarot designs now preserved in European museums were probably made about 1390, according to an occult tradition in which I am inclined to place confidence. The actual date of its invention was about the year 1200 AD. Wow, that was bright. Oh my God. The inventors, this tradition avers, were a group of adepts who met at stated intervals in the city of Fez in Morocco. After the destruction of Alexandria, Fez became the literary and scientific capital of the world. Thither from all parts of the globe. Thither? Thither. Never seen that word before. Except the first time I read this book in Zemo, I didn't notice it the first time. And thither, from all parts of the globe. I think that just means from there. From there to all parts of the globe came wise men. No, it's the opposite. From all other places other than this, because they liked it, came wise men of all nations, speaking all tongues. Their conferences were made difficult by differences in language and philosophical terminology, so they hit upon the device of embodying the most important of their doctrines in a book of pictures, whose combinations should depend on the occult harmonies of numbers. So the tarot is everyone's book. Get the fuck out of here. Perhaps it was a Chinese adept who suggested the idea, for the Chinese have a proverb, one picture is worth 10,000 words, and Chinese writing is made up of conventionalized pictures. These pictures express ideas instead of words. So the Chinese, Japanese, and Koreans, although they speak more than 7 different languages, communicate easily with one another if only they can read and write. As a skeleton for their invention, the wise men chose the relatively simple system of numbers and letters afforded by the Kabbalah, or secret wisdom of Israel. This esoteric doctrine, apparently Jewish, was really a development of ideas fundamentally identical with the wisdom taught in the secret schools of China, Tibet, and India. Some account of it, therefore, must precede our study of the tarot itself. Now we talk about the Hebrew wisdom. The Hebrew wisdom. The master key to the Hebrew wisdom is the name translated Lord. In the authorized version of the Bible and Jehovah in the revised versions, I got the emphasis on the wrong syllables on those, I tell you what. The master key to the Hebrew wisdom is the name translated Lord in the authorized version of the Bible and Jehovah in the revised versions. It is not really a name at all, but rather a verbal, numerical, and geometrical formula. In Roman letters corresponding to Hebrew, it is spelled IHVH. This is a noun. This is a noun form derived from a Hebrew verb meaning to be. Correctly translated, it means that which was, that which is, that which shall be. That, not he. Thus, it is a perfect verbal symbol for the one reality, for that something which has always subsisted behind all forms in the eternity of the past, for that something which really is behind all the appearances and misunderstandings of the present, for that something which will be the foundation for all the changing forms of life expression in the eternity to come. Never has ageless wisdom attempted to define this one reality. Its inner nature defies analysis, cannot be put within the limits of any formal statement, because the one reality is infinite. Yet in every age the report of the wise has been that in the one something inheres the power to know. We say, therefore, that IHVH is a verbal symbol for the conscious energy that brings all things and creatures into existence. The Kabbalah classifies all possible operations of this one energy into 4 planes or worlds. Each plane or world is represented by a letter of IHVH as follows. The archetypal world. This is the world of pure ideas. In the archetypal plane are the root notions inherent in the innermost nature of the universal conscious energy. From these ideas are derived all actual forms of manifestation. For example, the pure idea of a chair is the idea of sitting. In that idea, as in all others, is embodied a volition, the will to sit. This will to sit is the single root notion behind all possible chair forms that have ever been, are now, or ever shall be. Thus, the archetypal world is seen to be the plane of will ideas. To it, ageless wisdom assigns the element of fire, representing universal radiant energy. In IHVH, this world and this element are represented by the letter I. So, the Jews used 4 elements. Cool. The formative world. Oh, I missed a spot. The creative world. Here the ideas of the archetypal world are specialized as particular patterns. Sitting becomes the mental pattern for some special kind of chair. The cosmic energy acting on this plane contains the patterns of all chairs that have ever been made or thought of in the past, of all existing in the present, but not those as yet unthought of. So with all other patterns of particular forms, to this world ageless wisdom assigns the element of water, symbolizing the fluid plasticity of the cosmic mind stuff. The creative world is represented in IHVH by the first H. It reminds me of that old saying, I'm butchering the paraphrase, but it's like, you do not step in the same river twice. It's not the same river, you are not the same man. from all things boils down. So at the top you have fire, and then next you have water. The formative world. Here the archetypal ideas specialized in creative patterns are brought forth into actual expression. It is the plane of process, the world of forces behind the veil of physical being, of physical things. The formative world is that which is now explored by physicists and chemists. It is the world of vibratory activities and also the astral plane of occultism. Here take place the various kinds of action whereby the cosmic energy actualizes its patterns. Ageless wisdom assigns to this world the element of air, representing the life energy, which wise men everywhere have associated with breath. The formative world is represented by V in IHVH. I wonder if the writer of V for Vendetta knew that. That's kind of interesting. The material world. This is the plane of the actual forms which affect our physical senses. Here the processes of bringing down the idea of sitting through an operation based on the pattern of a particular chair is finally completed as the chair itself. This plane corresponds to the element of earth, representing the solidity and tangibility of physical objects. It corresponds to the second H in IHVH. It says in Liber Al, do not make the mistake of thinking that you are separate from anything, or something like that. And it makes all the sense in the world, with the right kind of attitude, I suppose. If I am at all, then all my machinations are in fact a part of me. Meow, meow, meow. I just fed you, it's cool. In every one of the four worlds, the Kabbalah conceives the operation of 10 aspects of the universal conscious energy. This idea that all possible aspects of the one reality may be reduced to a tenfold classification is found in every version of the Ageless Wisdom. Thence arises the esoteric teaching concerning the meaning of numbers. This is a subject almost limitless in its ramifications, but what is needed for tarot study will be found in the next chapter. On that note, I will wrap up this introduction of Tarot, a key to the wisdom of the ages by Paul Foster Case.